It's been an interesting few weeks here at the Freedom from Religion Foundation. We've had important cases in court with oral arguments, and here to discuss with me two recent cases are Andrew Seidel, FFRF Director of Strategic Response, and Patrick Elliott, FFRF Senior Counsel. So Andrew, you were actually in DC recently.
I was. Last week I was in DC for oral argument in Barker v. Conroy, which is FFRF co-president Dan Barker's case against the House of Representatives chaplain for refusing to allow Dan to go in and deliver a prayer before the House. Now, it kind of sounds a little odd to have an atheist give a prayer, but Representative Mark Pocan invited Dan to come in and deliver those prayers, and there have been non-theistic prayers before that invoke, the spirit of our founders, and that's what Dan wanted to do. And the chaplain said, nope, you're not religious. You don't get to come in and do that. So we sued for discrimination. We've challenged the prayers overall before, but the Supreme Court always upholds them. Legislative prayer there's never been a successful challenge against it. So if you can't beat them, join them. And that's what we're trying to do in this lawsuit. And they still discriminated against us. So I was in court arguing on Dan's behalf last week for that.
And what outcome do we hope for, and when can we hope for it?
It's always a bad idea to try to guess how courts are going to decide, but I thought the oral argument went very well. I think it's going to likely go in our favor. So that would be my prediction if I was a betting man, but you never know. And decision probably 3 or 4 months at the earliest. And
Patrick, you were a bit closer to our home base of Madison, Wisconsin, in Chicago, for another important case that the FFRF is litigating. Can you tell us about that?
Right. Well, this was actually the second time this case has been before the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, which is based in Chicago. And this is our challenge to a certain tax provision that favors ministers of the gospel. And so what the IRS does is allows churches to pay their ministers a housing allowance that is completely untaxed, which is unlike any other tax code provision, because normally we all pay tax on our income. Well, the Internal Revenue Code was changed in the 1950s, in part to push back against the godlessness of communism, to favor churches and allow for these untaxed payments. So FFRF sued and in fact won in the Western District of Wisconsin, and in a very lengthy and well-reasoned opinion. The IRS and several churches have appealed, and so that case is now before the Seventh Circuit, which held arguments this week.
And what's next?
Well, we obviously, again, as Andrew said, it can take some time for an opinion to be issued, particularly in a case like this, where there were many amicus briefs on both sides arguing about, the merits of the claims. We, in fact, had tax law professors on our side pointing out, for the benefit of the court, kind of the nuances to the tax code. So I think this case may well take a while, for the court to issue an opinion. We hope that they will affirm, and so I think in 2019 we should have an answer and we should have a decision.
And Patrick, in addition to these two cases, we have a third important case coming up in the court system in just a few days. Can you tell us about that?
Right. Well, next week we have a third appeal argument, which is rare that they would happen this soon, in the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals over Bible classes in the West Virginia school system. And so we'll be arguing that, and we have a third opinion that we can expect next year.
So 3 oral arguments in 2 weeks. It's kind of crazy.
Right.
Well, yeah, FFRF is keeping ourselves busy. Well, thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Patrick. And these are just a few of the cases that the Freedom from Religion Foundation is litigating in the courts as part of its efforts to uphold secular values and the separation of state and church.